Hey everybody, what's going on? It's your boy Nerdboy Q, and we are back with another iteration of our Python 101 class. So before, what we did was we got you started, we got you in terminal slash command prompt if you're using Windows, and we got you started. Like, we got you to install Python, we went to the website, we got an understanding of what to do and how to install, and making sure we set that path and getting kicked off. So let's jump back in and do a quick review. I'm going to go to terminal. If you're using Windows, use command prompt. And from here on is the same exact thing. So you want to go to Python, hit enter, good to go. You should be up and running. Now, what did we do last time? Okay, let's make some variables. Last time we did an integer variable. We just named it integer. We did string. We're going to name that apples. Or we're going to give it the value apples. And before I said array, what I meant was list. There's a small difference, and I'm used to traditional programming. In traditional programming, when you make an array, it's usually like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? It's a random series of values, but of an array, it's usually a value of the same values of the same type. So here you have integers, right? What's nice about Python is you can do lists, and lists just mean, hey, I can do different types of values. So you'll notice I put true. That's another thing we got to cover. But right now, there's an integer value, there's a string value, and there's a Boolean value. Booleans are just digital logic, means you only get two values. It's true or false, right? That's all that means. And it's another keyword. So true in Python has to be capitalized. So it's capital T R U E, and for false it's capital F A L S E. Right. So if you again, we'll go back into functions. We'll say, hey, we're gonna do a print list. Cool. So print list printed all those values the same. All right, cool. Let's say print string and so on and so forth. And remember, if you want to include two things and they have different types, we do F in our print to format it correctly. And then we say integer of the what was the other one? String. Cool. Boom. So that's how you do that. So now the last thing we did was we did for loop. So for I in range 0 to 10. Let's do that. And always indent 1, 2, 3. Print I. Boom. You got your counter. Okay, that's where we left off last time. New thing I want to show you is we're going to expand on loops. So, like I said before, programming in the essence is all based on the same few principles as far as getting started, right? It's variables, it's loops, it's functions, all that good stuff. But there are two main type of loops, right? In Python, at least. There's a for loop and then there's a while loop. While loops, I think you heard me say in a previous video that while loops are kind of dangerous, and I'll show you why. So let's say I want to do the exact same thing I did with that for loop. I want to make a counter, right? So I say while. We're gonna give I a value initially. So we're gonna say while I equals 0. Cool. And we say while I is less than 10. We're gonna say print I. So what's gonna happen here? We expect that while I is less than 10, we're just gonna print. Cool. Here's the problem. It's not going to stop. It is not going to stop. This is why while loops are dangerous, right? And nice thing about doing this is if you ever run into an issue, this is called an endless loop, meaning this loop is never going to stop until your computer crashes or runs out of memory or whatever the case is. To force stop this, you just hit Control C, keyboard interrupt. Again, it always tells you exactly what you're doing, right? So when you want to do that, the problem is you set the syntax is such that you say while I is less than 10, print. This is why we say computers are stupid. It's going to do exactly what you told it to do. It's following instructions. Computer is like a child, right? They're just gonna do exactly what you tell them to until they learn better, right? You have to be the reason they learn better. So what we do, we program a little better. So what we want to do is we want to print this I value, right? But we have to make sure the condition to stop this while loop is triggered. So we do something like this. We say while I is less than 10, print I, and then to change the value of I, we say we increment it by 1. So it should print 10 times. Boom, it does it, right? Cool. Now we just created the same thing we did the for loop. Now, one thing I just did was I incremented the value of I, right? Now, that's like an old way of doing, like a very basic way of doing it. A nice little trick to this, if you want to get a little fancier with your coding, I guess, is instead of doing this, because it's kind of redundant, right? You said I is equal to itself times one plus one. Like, there's a better way of doing that. So you just say plus equal one. That means literally the exact same thing. And it's going to run. I keep doing this. So I plus equal one. So I run into this issue often. Oh, you should make sure I said here. Wow. I less than 10. I plus equal 1. There we go. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, Prince, why didn't you just edit that out of the video? Why did you just do that? Now, here's the thing. I left this here because it's very important. One thing you'll notice is this whole time I've been doing it in this setup. I've been doing my programming in this setup. Usually this is not how people are programming, right? This is just for, like I said previously, this is for like quick, rapid checks, like sanity checks or whatever. So what happened in this scenario is the value of I was increased. I never reset the value. So previously I said I is equal to 0, and then I ran this loop. Well, the first time I ran it, it got up to 10 and just stopped. So of course, this saying while I is less than 10, at this point it's not less than 10. That's why it's not going to run. This is why it's very important that you pay attention when you're writing. And it's going to lead me to my next thing. You might want to get a text editor. There are a lot of different text editors. There's Notepad++, there's Notepad regular, there's Atom. I use one called Sublime, mainly because of styling. Text editors are just what they sound like. It's like Word or something like that, but it's specific to programming. Nice thing about Sublime is when I save it in whatever programming file type it is, it automatically like styles the whole code to whatever that programming language is. So in Python, like I talk about keywords, I talk about functions. You'll see in this screenshot, like the functions are green and different variables the same color, and it makes sure you program it correctly. And it's easier to see your entire program in one big structure. Now to do this, same thing as we did for Python. You go here, www.sublimetext.com. You click download for your respective system. Mine is a Mac, and it does the same thing we did for Python. So cool. Once that's installed, we can get rid of this. Like, we don't need this terminal anymore. Now we can start getting into, like, now you can feel like a programmer, right? You can start getting into this. So you're going to open Sublime Text once you have it installed. And we're going to do this. I already set it up. Same exact code we did before. Here's the thing. Nice thing about Sublime is I can run my code directly in Sublime. But you always have to save your file. Let me go ahead and save it somewhere. We're going to save it as Python 101. Saving Python file types. This is how the computer knows it's a Python file. You do a random name like you do in any file, and you have to give it a type. That type is py. That's it. All right. Now, look at that. It already recognized the keywords. It recognized my operators. Your operators are like equal, plus, subtract, less than, greater than, whatever. All right. Now, same thing we did before. Let me decrease this size just a little bit. Same thing we did before. Now, nice thing, like I said, you can run it in Sublime Text, and I'll go through that a little bit later as far as like how we get that running. There's a tool called Build Systems, and Python is already pre-built. Once you install this, and then you just say build, or for me it's Apple key B. For Windows computers, it's Control B. And once you click on this tool menu, it'll explain it to you. So then I'll just click Control B, and it does exactly down here. It shows you what we saw in the terminal. All right. Now, what the syntax is saying with the while loop is while some condition is true, run this. Right. So we'll notice basically what it's doing is while true. again, keywords are highlighted, and that's what's beautiful about using Sublime Text. It just does this formatting really nice. I like, it's called a dark theme. I like programming on darker backgrounds because I think it's better for your eyes than programming on something with a white background. At any rate, that's why I use Sublime Text. But it's basically saying, while some condition is true, do this function. Now, we'll go into this next little step. We're going to get into conditions. Conditions are a little bit deeper, right? So there's loops, there's functions, and there are these conditions of the loops or whatever. And then there's conditions themselves. They're condition statements. One condition is as simple as it sounds. If. If is a very big thing. Like if is usually like the first introduction you get to like getting into logic of programming. So we'll have this. We'll say if, let's say C, I don't know, C is, we'll go into operands a little bit. C modulus, that's called, that percent sign, it's a math operator. It's modulus 2 equals to 0. All right. When you're doing conditional statements, this is something interesting. You can't just put an equal. You have to put equals equals. You either put equals equals, exclamation mark equals, that means not equal, right? Or you do less than, greater than, less than or equal to, same thing, greater than or equal to, right? For right now, we're gonna do equal to. Notice I did another condition, right? I had to put a colon. So what does that mean? We have to indent this. Now, what you'll notice right here is, remember I said Python is an indent-based programming language. Again, things that are contained within this while statement or this while loop have to be indented so much. And everything that's running in here has to be indented along the same line. It will run into errors. Now, you'll notice here I said if C modulus 2. What this means is it does a divider, right? It says if whatever the value is divided by 2 has no remainder, then print the value, right? What that's basically saying is if it's an even number, print it. So 2 divided by 2, there should be no remainder. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So there's no remainder, there's no decimal, no nothing. So just 0 is the remainder. That's what this is saying. If whatever the value of C is at this time divided by 2 has no remainder, then print the value. And then we're going to keep incrementing it, right? So then we do Control B. There you go. And it just printed all the even numbers. Nice little trick to differentiate between even and odd. So let's do a little interesting thing. Let's do this. We're going to do F, C. We're going to do even. It's an even value. This is a good way to do testing, right? There you go. Now, if usually has a co-pilot. It usually has like a co-parent. Like there's if, and then there's else, right? So it's usually found like this, else. So this means if anything is an even number, print it. But what do you do if it's not an even number? I'll tell you what you do. Come here, go there, and we're gonna say odd value. All right, boom. This is a good way to test. Now, again, you notice else is its own setup condition, and this is indented because it's running in else, right? And then you'll notice here, this is if, and within the if, it's indented because this is a child of if, and this is a child of else, and all of this is a child of while, right? And what's nice about this is if you highlight that variable, if you double click on it and like highlight it, it'll show you all the similar variables, right? It'll show you every occurrence of this same variable name. So what I ran into earlier is a nice way. This is a nice way to double check that and do a sanity check and say, hey, what's missing? Like what happened? Why isn't my code working? You can always do this. This is 9 times out of 10 the problem every time. You've misspelled something. You didn't indent it. It's always something weird. One of the issues, like I said, you'll notice this increment is outside of these, right? Here's the thing. If I take this and put it here, we're going to run into an issue. It's just going to keep running forever. Now we're back in, you'll see it's flickering. It's just going really fast. We're running into this issue where it's an endless loop because it is only running when this instance is true, when this condition is true. Well, it was only true once because we only got to increment it one time when it was 0. Now it's just 1 forever. So again, indenting is very important. You have to make sure that everything's indented correctly, and that's how you run that. So today we've done a while loop. We got into conditional statements. You learned a little bit about operands, plus, equal, incrementing, modulus, whatever. We got a little math included, but this is another iteration of Python 101. If you like it, guys, please, if you enjoyed this content, like it, share, subscribe. If you need any more information, if I did something wrong, if I did something that's confusing, if you need any help with this text editor, or you want to use a different one, let me know. I can help you out with it. I promise you, again, I always respond within 24 hours. So that being said, y'all have fun programming and get to it. Thank y'all for watching.